Hey, 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 red carpet rain where we are supreme. Thank you all for coming out tonight. We're going to talk about the top 10 greatest wrestling villains never to win a world title. It's going to be a certain criteria I'm going to have. It's going to be 10 villains that never ever won a world title. Some were mid-card champions. Some may have some other accomplishments, and they're Hall of Famers. But for the most part, it's going to be these guys were very popular. They were mostly heels during their career, and they never ever won a championship. Now I'm going to go over the criteria in a second, and I will let you guys know. Let me give me 1 second. Here it goes. Okay, criteria is they never been officially WWF/WWE champion, NWA/WCW champion. Spent most of the career as a heel, held at least a mid-card title, example, United States title, the television title, Intercontinental Championship, or Hall of Famer. So I'm going to go down the list of each one. And I'm going to break it down for each one and let you guys know who's who so you can be familiar of who these wrestlers are.
Hey
Now,
guys,
oh yeah. And you guys know, yeah, I
man,
got Mr. Goodbread. My apologies, I got Mr. Goodbread and Brian Turner up here. They're going to chime in after me. After I run down each wrestler, you're going to hear their opinion on it of my list, but we will get to them after I read off the first one. Let me bring that person up now. So, number 10 will be William Regal. That's William Regal, that's how he looks. Now, I'm going to give you a rundown of his career. Okay, he wrestled May 10, 1983. Last match was November 21st, 2013. Finishers were the Regal Stretch, the Arm Trap Cross STF. He also had a knee trembler, running knee, power of the punch, left-handed knockout punch with brass knuckles was a definite heel move, something he would do. The Regal Cutter was the arm track neck breaker. Now, some of these moves he did for a while, some he did for most of his career. But as you can see, the Regal Stretch, he pretty much did his whole career. Side note, John Cena, bit this from him. He did it before John Cena. But anyway, he mostly did the knee trembler and running knee lift. He did power to punch for maybe 2 years. And also Regal Cut did for a while. So, titles that he won were the Intercontinental Championship. He won that on 2 separate occasions. He won four-time European champion. He's a 5-time hardcore champion. As you can see, he in WCW, he was a 4-time world television champion. Now, the heel moment that was highlighted, I believe, is when he turned on Kurt Angle to help Stone Cold win the WWE title on episode Monday Night Raw. And it ended up being Stone Cold's last championship run champion. And this is when he also aligned himself with the Alliance over the WWE or WWF at the time. So that is William Regal. That's his career. The closest he became to become a world champion was 2008. He was King of the Ring. That's not on the note, but he was King of the Ring 2008. He had a good push. He beat CM Punk in the finals. He was supposed to win, but he got suspended for taking substance and drugs and all that stuff. He was suspended for 30 days, and because he was suspended, it stopped his push. He was never world champion. That's the closest that they was going to make him world champion, and he never got that close ever again. Like I say, retired 2013. He was the NXT commissioner, not general manager, but I believe commissioner, general manager. And he went to AEW for a minute. Also, I'm gonna add that as a bonus too. I'll get to that in a second. He was in AEW, didn't work out, came back to the WWE recently. He has a son named Charlie Dempsey that's in NXT. That's his real life son. And the other moment we're gonna bring up now, he helped MJF win the AEW World Championship when he turned on John Moxley of last year Full Gear event when he threw him the brass knuckles, something he used in his career. But he was a manager at that point. He wasn't at the wrestling anymore, but that's what he did. So that is William Regal's career. Great career, very technical. I think he gets overshadowed by stuff he's done in the ring. Um, but he's one guy that never won a world title. I wish he did. It would have completed his career. He wrestled so many. He wrestled what 83 and 13, so what 20 years. But nonetheless, a great career. And I'm going to pass the mic. So you guys could chime in and let me know what you think of that.
Well, I'll go first. I think Lord Steven Regal definitely should have been the champion. If you look at it, he is that mold of all the Euro wrestlers. Like Walter right now, Walter is
Mm-hmm.
carbon copy. His mannerisms is Lord Steven Regal up and down. So it's like, you know what I mean? Steven should have been rewarded of it. And I seen Billy, shout outs to Billy Bishop, little bro. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I
shout
seen
out to
him.
him.
That's a fact. He trolled Goldberg. He trolled Goldberg. He was the only man to step up and challenge Goldberg when WCW was pushing Goldberg to the moon, and every wrestler knew Goldberg really couldn't wrestle, and he was injury prone. I mean, he was prone to creating injuries. So that's what I'm gonna say about that. So shout outs to Steven Regal, but he's a classic example of when they can't control you, they're not gonna put ultimate power in your hand by giving you the chip.
Thanks, good Brad. Really good analysis. Yeah, William Regal is probably the ultimate mid card guy. He is the man who found Triple H. He discovered Triple H back in the early '90s. He's the guy kind of helped put Triple H on. I remember William Regal from the time he defended the Intercontinental Championship against RVD back at WrestleMania. That's probably one of his best matches. But I myself just couldn't see Regal as a world champion. Not because he couldn't do it, but because his character, it would have been kind of hard for me, especially later in his career, for him to be a. I think I think his ceiling would have been like a Chris Jericho type, maybe even uh, maybe either Chris Jericho type, maybe even a JBL type as far as his ceiling as a world champion. But it's kind of hard for guys like him who aren't explosive. Like, for example, Edge is a great heel because Edge is a very explosive athlete. He can excite you. He can go off the top rope. Chris Jericho is also a very explosive athlete. Guys like Triple H, their benefit is even though they're not extremely explosive, they're brawlers. They gave you really good entertainment. But William Regal was kind of a more boring style wrestler. Didn't really have an explosive finisher move. He didn't have really a crowd pleasing style of wrestling. He was kind of like a guy who would just put over the more not say he wasn't talented, very talented athlete, but just not an explosive athlete. Very few guys like for example, Kurt Angle's not really an explosive athlete, but he's extremely entertaining when he does. But yeah, I can kind of see why Regal was never pushed to be a world champion. Just not necessarily exciting enough.
Uh, you know what? I don't understand it though because when you push guys like Sheamus, see, and I understand it's the era too, but I don't see Sheamus being any different from Lord Steven Regal.
True, but I think Sheamus is a tad bit more explosive than really. Not just that.
And BT,
Shit.
you know
Hmm?
that um John Cena FU, that
Brock
was
Lesnar's
that
F5.
uh, no, the FU. I think it was Cena.
STFU, talking about STF. That's what I mentioned earlier. He got that from Regal. That what you talking
Yeah,
about?
Cena.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Cena stole the finisher from Regal.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but I get it. Regal definitely. I don't know, man. I don't know. With the right good guy though, he could have been. He definitely worthy to be on this list. Definitely worthy.
But
Yeah.
yeah, but not to deviate, but nah, Cena got the FU from the F5. It's actually documented. But that's a story for another day. He got the FU from the F5. I could actually show you. Which it was on an episode of SmackDown. Cena got the FU as a way of trolling Brock Lesnar, and then it ended up becoming one of the most famous finishers in all of wrestling. But story for another day.
Good point.
Good points, guys. Good points. Yeah, William Regal, he definitely mentored Triple H back in WCW. When Triple H was John Paul Levesque, he was Lord Steven Regal. Um, I think he should at least have one world title run, especially as long as he was with WWE. He put in the time, he put in the work. He even worked with that Eugene character. He deserved one world title run, but nonetheless, it didn't happen. So I'm going to go over the next subject, and we're going to go over the next in line, number 9 on the list that did not win the world title. And we'll go 1 second. This guy here, for those you don't know, this is Jesse Ventura. Jesse Ventura's number 9. So he was a wrestler. He was also a commentator. He didn't wrestle as long, but he was a heel for most of his career. And we'll break it down right now. He wrestled from June 1st, 1974 to March 22nd, 1986. He finishes with a body breaker, inverted bear hug, which he used 79 till his career was over. He was in the WWE Hall of Fame, which was 2004. Now, his heel moment was quoted for saying, "Win if you can, lose if you must." Adopted from George's George, another legendary wrestler. Now I know he will become governor of Minnesota. He did return to WWE in SummerSlam 1999 when he officiated the main event for the world title with Stone Cold, the champion, Mankind, and Triple H. And he made some other appearances. But Jesse Ventura, he was very popular in his heyday. He didn't have a long career. He wrestled, 13 years. But he's definitely on the list. And I would pass the mic along to you guys.
Now, Jesse Body Ventura is unique because um he was one of the first people to really sue the company and really win. And for that right there, they would never ever put the title on him. They would never put the title on him. And besides, Jesse was cool and he was a good personality. I think he was better as a commentator. You know what I mean? But as far as wrestling, he was a knockoff. He was a knockoff Billy Graham. And they already had too many Billy. I mean, they already had a Billy Graham, and then they had Hogan in the wing. They was going to take Hogan and turn him into the new Billy Graham. So Jesse really didn't have no room to fit. You know what I mean? So great person to put on this list, though.
Great take, good bread. Jesse Ventura's biggest cardinal sin was crossing not only Vince McMahon, but also Hulk Hogan. There aren't very many people in the wrestling world who hate Hulk Hogan more than Jesse Ventura. Jesse was very independent. Jesse was also a very outspoken liberal, which obviously played a factor in the fact that him and Vince were clearly two different sides of the same coin. Both guys are extremely headstrong. Both are very intelligent men, but Jesse Ventura, to put it quite mildly, he was basically he basically was trying to expose a lot of hypocrisy within the locker room. For example, I know that he actually tried to sue Vince McMahon over royalties for his likeness because, as you already know, Vince is notorious for being greedy over people's likeness. You know, because Vince is as great a businessman as Vince is actually he's pretty he can be pretty controlling about his wrestler's name, image, likeness. And Jesse Ventura was one of the first people to stand up to Vince, and Vince didn't like that. Jesse, if I look back at his old highlights, Jesse again, not the most explosive athlete, so his matches wouldn't have entertained fans enough for him to be a world champion. And like I mentioned before, Randy Orton, Edge, John Cena, Matt Hardy, no, excuse me, Jeff Hardy, Brock Lesnar. These are all guys whose finishing moves and their style of wrestling can entertain the fans. These are all explosive, maybe not so much outside of Jeff Hardy, not high flying, but very dynamic athletes who could change a match at any point. They could change a match at any point. They could win a match at any point. Jesse Ventura, like a lot of bodybuilder type wrestlers, more of a pace guy. And also, of course, he played in my favorite movie of all time. He played in Predator, so he has a very special place in my heart. But Jesse Ventura, I can see why booking wouldn't necessarily give him the world title.
Truth. You muted, bro.
Oh, I'm sorry. I also good points. I was gonna say I also heard that Jesse Ventura wanted a union or something, and Hulk Hogan went and told Vince McMahon, and then that pretty much was the end of his run. It pretty much uh, made the relationship between him and WWE and Vince McMahon real sour because he was known for trying to bring unity, try to do things right, and he thought Hulk was on his side, like BT said, but he ended up turning on. He told Vince McMahon what he was trying to do. So that was it with Jesse Ventura. So it was always politics and backstage heat mostly went more than him wrestling. Him trying to be a champion. It was always some backstage stuff going on with him. So
That's a fact, bro.
Jesse the Body Ventura, number 9. But we will move on to number 8.
You made a good point though too with Jesse Ventura, man. Trust is a big thing, man. Trust.
Yes, most definitely. So let's go to number 8. Wonder who number 8 is. Okay. And it's this guy. 1 second. Scott Hall / Razor Ramon. Now I'm going off the Razor Ramon character, not so much Scott Hall with NWO. He's a heel then too. I'm talking mostly more of Razor Ramon. We can do a little bit of Scott Hall, but he was very popular Razor Ramon back in the 90s. And let's go over his career. He was a wrestler from October 22nd, 1984 to June 14, 2010. Finishes was the Razor's Edge / Outsider's Edge / NW Edge / Diamond Death Drop / Crucifix Powerbomb. And that was from 1984 to his whole career, 2010. Hall Buster Bulldog was in 84 to 89. He is a Hall of Famer. He was inducted twice, once in 2014 as an individual, and second as part of the NWO. It's not on here, but he was also former Intercontinental Champion, one of the best Intercontinental Champions I've seen. His heel moment was famous quote saying, "Bad times don't last, but tough guys do." Razor Ramon just recently passed last year, right before WrestleMania. Used to have Sans Chico, Razor Ramon, funny guy. He was a Cuban character based off Tony Montana from Scarface. Very, very funny. He had the vignettes, everything. I used to remember all that stuff. But nonetheless, a legend. And like I said, unfortunately, he's no longer with us. But he's one guy that never won the world title. I feel like he was always in the shadow of Kevin Nash or Diesel in NWO mostly, or he was in the shadow of somebody else. We could say Shawn Michaels too when he was Razor Ramon, other people. I felt like he was always the guy behind some other guy. Why he never won a world title. And then I know also he had problems with substance abuse, drugs, alcohol. So that didn't help his case either. But he still could at least have one run of the title. I saw old pictures of him. He was in AWA. He was actually a husky dude. He lost weight. He had a big, thick mustache. But nonetheless, Scott Hall, Razor Ramon, definitely a legend. And I will pass it along to you guys.
Want to take that right quick, BT?
Scott Hall should have been champion. Very talented athlete. His match against, I think it was Shawn Michaels for the in that ladder match. That was a revolutionary match. That was him and Shawn Michaels, right? In that ladder
Yes,
match.
that was at WrestleMania.
But the thing is
Yeah.
with Scott Hall, that's another guy. It was kind of hard to find him a rival because a lot of times heels are booked based on rivalries, and the thing is, he never, his rivalry with Shawn Michaels over the Intercontinental title, there really wasn't much story there. Like for example, HBK and Triple H had their old friendship. John Cena and Edge, their rivalries because of their two contrasting ideologies. It was kind of hard to find a rival for Scott Hall because Scott Hall was just he was just such a. The thing is, his big character was kind of worked against him a little bit. Now he had a good rivalry with with DiBiase, Ted DiBiase, but again, that was another guy who their rivalry wouldn't have taken over the world like, for example, Cena and Edge, Cena and Orton, but definitely talented enough to have been world champion. You know what I'm saying? I just think that there's gonna be some guys who them being such big personalities kind of works against them, and he was definitely one of them.
Yeah, that's a good point there. Definitely a good point. I forgot about the WrestleMania match he had with Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 10. Intercontinental Champion versus Intercontinental Champion ladder match, great spots. It was a 5-star match actually by Dave Meltzer, match of the year. So
That's a
yeah,
fact. Razor had some of the best vignettes. His vignettes was so fire to me. Like him, another person we're gonna go over on the list. But they that was back in the days when they really knew how to market the character, and then they put him in there with God the undercard guys, and they let them show off their moves. It wasn't so much main event. Like nowadays, we get accustomed and we get spoiled to every match being typically a main event match. But back in the days, back in my days, man, they had a little guy that they paid $10 to get in there and get tossed around. But Razor Ramon had some of the best vignettes and he had some of the best move sets for a big man for his size. A lot of the common denominator to almost all the guys on this list is gonna be trust. The company just never trusted him enough to put the strap on him. He was way better than Diesel, if you ask me, move wise. If you're talking about in ring
Agreed.
wise,
Very much
Yeah.
so agree on that.
hmm Yeah, I think so too. I like his razor's edge. And if you look now, many Russ have adopted that move. Sheamus is one of them. I believe Damian Priest do a little bit. So yeah, he's definitely a wrestler that should have won at least one world title. But you know, politics is involved, and like Gilbert said, trust and all that stuff. And who they like, who they favor, who's the box office draw to, who makes the most money for the company, who puts the butts in seats, all that plays a factor.
Oh, we definitely got to mention the fact that he put over the 1, 2, 3 kid, which eventually became X Pac. He put him
Yo,
over. He made his career.
yep, yeah, that's one of the most upset in Monday Night Raw history when 1, 2, 3 Kid defeated Razor Ramon, and Razor Ramon ended up turning face. He was actually a good guy after that. That's crazy for guys being known for a heel. That was his babyface moment. It's when he put him over and lost. Good point. Good point, Gabriel. So I'm gonna go over number 7. So number 7, who is the individual in particular? Let's see. This person here is also, let's see, former Intercontinental Champion. His name is the Honky Tonk Man. And that's a picture of him for you guys to go look. We'll go a breakdown of his career. Now, he wrestled from January 16, 1978 to November 3rd, 2019. He got inducted to the Hall of Fame in 2019. He was a former Intercontinental Champion, the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion to this day, 454 days, even though Gunther is on the verge of beating it. His heel moment was when he attacked Jake the Snake Roberts with a guitar on the Snake Pit. Now, with that being said, when he attacked with a guitar, that guitar was that he was supposed he that was a legit injury when he hit Jake the Snake. He hit him in the back. I know some. I'm not a musician, but I know it's a certain guitar you're supposed to have. His was the wrong one. I can't think of the word right now. Guitarists out there, you know what I'm talking about, guys that play guitar. His guitar was supposed to be a light. It was supposed to be light, supposed to be fiberglass in it. And it was a real guitar. If you look at the tape back, when he hit Jake in the back, Jake was legit knocked out. He was hurt. You could tell he hit him for real. Because he hit him near the face first, then he hit him in the back while Jake's snake back was hurt, but that was a real injury to Jake. And Jake mentioned that in interviews that he went too far with that. But Honky Tonk Man, never world champion, heel, very good heel. I have to give him his due. But I think they didn't see him as a champion. I mean, the dude like Elvis Presley, I don't think he was championship material in the company's eyes. But he did have a long Intercontinental title reign. And a side note of the Intercontinental title reign, he was never initially supposed to win that title. I mean, hold that title for that extended period amount of time. He held it for that long because Jake the Snake Roberts failed his drug test. He was supposed to be a transitional champion. He was never supposed to have belt that long. But because Jake, failed his test, they put the belt on Honky Tonk, and they like him as a heel, how he got over with the fans. They decided to keep on a little bit longer. But he is a Hall of Famer, but never world champion. And I will pass it along to you guys.
Now, one of the famous moments, one of the famous heel moments that I remember with Honky Tonk Man was a Saturday Night Live when it was him and he was in a feud with the Macho Man, but for somehow, some way, the Hart Foundation, because of Jimmy Hart, because Jimmy Hart managed the Hart Foundation and he managed the Honky Tonk Man. So the Hart Foundation came out and they had the Macho Man there, and Elizabeth, she tried to come in front of Macho Man, and he when I tell you, he threw the shit out of Elizabeth and smacked the Macho Man over the head with that guitar. That's when I was like, whoa, this boy Honky Tonk Man is vicious. And as far as him being a world champion, that was never ever gonna happen. And he played the right character for what it was. He was what he was, like, and he was fit. He fit for what he was. I didn't see him being a world champion either. And he was at a time where it was way better, like upper card bad guys. You know what I mean? With his character, he was one dimensional. He was entertainment. The cowardly Hill, and that was it.
Excellent take, GB. Honky Tonk was basically Elias or Carlito or Chris Masters before those guys.
Facts.
Yeah, definitely wasn't a bad performer. Not a bad athlete, but not necessarily like I said before. World champions have to be exciting. World champions have to be guys who can change a match in 1 second. Brock Lesnar can beat you in 5 seconds. Edge's finisher, his spear, can happen in any moment. John Cena has dramatic matches. HBK has dramatic matches. Guys like Honky Tonk do not have dramatic matches. They can have funny matches. They can be the heel that gets beat up by the over face. Honky Tonk was one of Hulk Hogan's earliest rivals when he finally came to WWF. Um, Honky certainly he did his job and he did his job well as Intercontinental Champion. He made the title pretty legit, but like I said before, not explosive enough as of an athlete to where it'll entertain fans enough for him to be a legit champion.
Yo, it's funny that you mentioned that, BT, because come to think about it, for a guy to hold the title for as long as he hold the title and drop it, and what was that? He dropped it in 10 seconds to the Ultimate Warrior, bro. He lost the title. He lost that Intercontinental title to a surprise wrestler at SummerSlam 88. And that happened to be the Ultimate Warrior who beat him in like 10 seconds, yo. So that lets you know, like, he was never really supposed to be the champion. And when they found somebody that could carry the flag, that they knew that could carry the flags. Remember, Macho Man could have beat him, but they had plans for Macho to be the world champion because of the steroids and stuff. So, you know what I mean? Honky Tonk Man got lucky.
Very lucky. Like I said, you agreed. It's never supposed to have a long Intercontinental title run. And honestly, if it weren't for him going heel getting over, they may have released him. Honestly, he would have released.
Fun
But
fact: Honky Tonk and Jerry Lawler are cousins.
true.
They're both from
Yes.
Memphis. They're both
Got
from
to add
Memphis.
that too. Yes, he's the younger cousin of Jerry Lawler.
Good
Yes, that's
point.
very
I didn't
true.
even know that, guys. Y'all
I
brought the
forgot
fact
about that.
sheets out
I
today.
did read about that. Yes. But yes, he is number 7. We'll go down to oops. That's not number 6, but I will go into my number 6 on the list. And it's not Roddy Piper, but it's somebody else. Let's see. It's another legend, Mr. R. Anderson, the enforcer of the Four Horsemen, the famous Four Horsemen. Now let's go over a breakdown of his career. He wrestled from 1982 to 97. Finisher, the double A spine buster, spinning spine buster, the best spine buster ever. He did that from 83 to 97. He did a DDT from 82 to 97. He is a WWE Hall of Famer. He was inducted in 2012 with the group The Four Horsemen. He is a 4-time NWA/WCW World Television Champion. Heel moment is when he attacked Eric Watts at a gas station in 1993. He whooped that boy up, gave him that business. I remember hearing about that. But Double A, it would have been interesting if he had been world champion, but I knew that wasn't going to happen because he was the enforcer. He was behind Ric Flair, the 16-time world champion. It would have been interesting. You kind of knew it wasn't going to go to him as a world title. He was never going to win it, but it'd been interesting if he did. Because Arn Anderson used to put in the work back in the day, serious work. Now he's in AEW now. He is the current manager of the TNT champion Wardlow. He was a producer for WWE from 2001 to 2019. He he made some appearances every here and there. Fun fact, he did a spine buster to Undertaker during his match with Flair at WrestleMania 8. He did that double A spine buster. But he's one of the biggest enforcers that held down stable. He definitely held down stable. Great, like I say, good singles career, TV champ. Um, yeah, he definitely. It would have been definitely something if he had became a world champion, but I knew that wasn't going to happen. Double A just wanted that guy to be on top, but he was the guy next to the guy. And I'm gonna pass it on to you guys.
Man, Arn Anderson will always be the Scottie Pippen to Ric Flair's Jordan, unfortunately. But another thing too, a lot of these tag team specialist guys is gonna be real hard to win the world's title. He was a tag team specialist. Hey, you know what I mean? When you're done, can I just talk?
Somebody turn
I'm
background.
surprised I didn't bring it up. Arn Anderson's one of the four horsemen. Surprised I didn't bring that up. Arn Anderson, Pillman, and Ric Flair with and I think it was Chris Benoit, if I'm not mistaken. Chris Benoit was also one of the four horsemen back in the 90s. Yeah,
The
one of the
the
four horsemen.
the original four is on Tully Blanchard, Ole Anderson, and Ric Flair. That's the
Mhm.
original four, and then they included Barry Windham, started including Lex Luger, but that was
Mhm.
that was that was
A
towards
later
the end, the
incarnation.
tail end.
Yeah, I mentioned
Yeah.
he was the force of the four horsemen. I didn't mention the rest names and group, but yeah, I mentioned he was the force of the four horsemen.
Oh, I might have missed that. Excuse me, but no, Arn's another guy. He fits better as a tag, like Goodbread mentioned. He fits better as a tag team guy. No different rather than Brian Kendrick or Crime Time guys like that. They're more, not even just that, like Umaga. God rest his soul, like Umaga. Umaga was um, you know, was a great heel, but Umaga just didn't really have the presence of a world champion. Now, if Umaga would have lived, God be willing, I think he could have potentially been a world champion because Mark Henry was a world champion. I think Umaga was more athletic and entertaining than Mark Henry, but some guys just don't really fit the bill of what Vince McMahon is looking for, you know. And yeah, he did spine buster Undertaker at WrestleMania during their match against Ric Flair. I remember that very well. It's one of his defining moments in my opinion.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Double A. He is the guy next to the guy. Never will be a world champion. But he plays his role perfect. He didn't need to be a world champion. But he's still one of the best villains I see. And we're gonna go to number 5 now. And this guy, he has a lengthy resume. Okay, this guy here, he is definitely a legend in his own. Mr. Owen Hart, brother of Bret Hart, younger brother from the famous Hart family. Stu Hart, the father that ran the dungeon back in Canada. Of course, related to British Bulldog, Jim Anvil, Nat Hart. All those guys, part of Hart Foundation, one of the best tag teams ever, best stables. Had a great singles career. One of the guys that if he had lived, I know they would have made him a world champion at some point. He had it all. Great chemistry with his brother Brett. I'm gonna read his breakdown of his career. He wrestled from 1986 to his till he passed in 1999. He had reverse power driver. He did for a couple years. Sharpshooter. He did for 94, 99. The bridging Northern Lights suplex. He did for a little bit. Missile drop kick. Diving splash. Moonsault. He was a former European champion, former Intercontinental champion, former King of the Ring, former Intercontinental Championship tournament winner. And his heel moment is when he attacked Big Brother Brett at Royal Rumble 1994 after they tag team match. Brett, he said Brett could tag them in. They could have won the tag team belts. They lost. After the match, Owen and they had their little rivalry. I believe they wrestled each other that same year as WrestleMania. But I know he's also known, besides him passing away in '99, he was responsible for doing a pile driver on Stone Cold Steve Austin. He botched it, dropped Stone Cold's neck, cost years off Stone Cold's career. Stone Cold says in the interviews that him and Owen went over this, how to do the pile driver. He said Owen's supposed to go to his knees or something. He went to his ass instead, and he botched the move. And Stone Cold said he trusted him with his body. He thought, because of the heart, and they talked previously that he wasn't going to do that, but he ended up, botching the pile driver, and Stone Cold neck was never the same again. He did come back later on, but he didn't wrestle much longer. Stone Cold could have wrestled for a good another 10 to 15 years if if that incident had not happened. Um, Even Brett said Owen should apologize, and Owen didn't at first. But he said Owen did feel bad because I think he said Owen felt embarrassed about it. I apologize, Stone Cold Steve Austin. But unfortunately, he passed in '99 with the whole Blue Blazer thing, dropping so many feet in the air. Tragic story, but nonetheless, great, great talent, great technical wrestler. Could have been a world champion. Rumors, said that the nickname, the game, they ended up going to another famous Hall of Fame wrestler, Mr. Triple H, said was stolen. It was supposed to go originally for Hart, but nonetheless, Owen Hart did his thing as a wrestler. It was good. Um, Never world champion, but I will pass along to you guys.
The Hart family is not only one of the greatest. It not only is the greatest wrestling family ever. The Hart family is arguably one of sports' most noteworthy dynasties. The Hart family, in many ways, is the heartbeat of professional wrestling and entertainment. Owen Hart was a spitting image of his dad. Stu Hart. Owen was, by all accounts, one of the five greatest technical wrestlers ever, including his brother Brett. Owen had all the makings of a world champion. He just unfortunately went on to be with the Lord sooner than we all thought he would. But Owen Hart had the pedigree to be not only a world champion but a multiple time world champion. As far as him being the game, I didn't really get a chance to watch him wrestle enough to really know if that gimmick would have fit him. Triple H fits that gimmick because Triple H fits more of the arrogant, aristocratic, tyrannical type image. Owen would have been like a Chris Benoit type of deal, in my opinion. A anti-hero technical wrestler who's hell bent on becoming world champion, even if it's one of his friends. But Owen is without a doubt one of the most talented athletes ever to be a wrestler, and that includes his brother Brett.
I agree with both of y'all. I really ain't really much to say. I mean, Kurt Angle, Owen Hart ain't no bigger difference than me. Like they had the wrestling ability of, you know what I mean? It's sad. It's tragic, bro. But I remember both. I mean, we saw 1988 SummerSlam. We saw Owen Hart. I mean, the Blue Blazer open up with a tag in the tag team match with Coco Beware, if I'm not mistaken. And like he had it all. He had the skills. He had. I even liked the tag team with him and the Anvil Nightheart, the New Heart Foundation. That was a good tag team too. So ain't really much to say about Owen. Owen, he probably could have been the champion. Who knows? But
Yeah, you know how Vince McMahon felt about the Hart family. He had a potential to become a world champion, but Vince would have made him world champion. You know how he felt about that family. They are one of the greatest families, like BT said, but you know how he does those hearts. He screw them over. We ain't gonna mention Montreal Screwjob in '97. That's the Survivor Series. But nonetheless, we'll move along. We are at, let me see where we at. Give me 1 second. Let me see where we at so far. We are at number 4. And number 4 is the $1 million man, Ted DiBiase. Money, 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 money. And that's a real life gimmick. The scandal he's got caught in. He really is about that money. But anyway, he is a wrestler. He wrestled from July 22nd, 74 to November 15th, 1993. Finishers is the $1 million Dream, Cobra Clutch. He did from 87, 93. Power Slam, 74 to 87. He is a Hall of Fame, inducted in 2010. Now, this is before WWE. His heel moment before he came to WWE, he was mostly known as a babyface for a while, but he attacked Junkyard Dog with a little weapon to win the North American title in 1982. If you guys want to look that up, he was a babyface, I think, overseas or another territory, and he attacked Junkyard Dog to win the belt, and that's when he first started becoming to a heel persona. And he later transformed into the $1 million Man. Now, $1 million Man also had a son, Ted DiBiase Jr. He's with the group Legacy with Randy Orton and Cody Rhodes. His son was not nowhere near as good as his dad was. He even wrestled that long. He also got caught in that scandal for money. Um, he did return to WWE later on, NXT. I think he gave a $1 million championship to LA Knight. LA Knight turned on him and attacked him with that belt. He also gave that belt to the Rainmaster, who was later known as Stone Cold Steve Austin. He did a little run with him. He also had a run in WCW. Ted DiBiase is one of the most popular characters of all time. Now, like my rules stated, yeah, he won the championship. People saying, oh, he won the WWE championship, but it was the unofficial title reign. So when he bought it from Andre the Giant in '88, does not count. President Jack Tunney suspended and he forfeited the reign and he vacated the title. New champion was in a tournament won by Macho Man Randy Savage at the fall year WrestleMania. But nonetheless, he was a match of Andre the Giant. He was also with Virgil. Had Virgil. You know how you treat Virgil. Treat him like crap. Um, but a lot of memorable moments with Ted DiBiase. Definitely an unforgettable character. The money gimmick just gets over. The song stays in my head. But never not official world champion. Even the They were supposed to rumor give him a title run, but it didn't happen. It was a whole story with the Honky Tonk Man. They said Honky Tonk Man was supposed to, the Intercontinental belt was supposed to go to Randy Savage. He didn't want to drop to Randy Savage, and they said, okay, we'll put Randy in the tournament to win the belt. But that tournament was rumored initially supposed to be Ted DiBiase to win, not Randy. But Ted never, got mad about it, never had sour grapes over it. He knew his thing. He knew he did his thing. He knew his role. That was it. But that was Ted DiBiase's career, and I will pass it along to you guys.
Yo, Ted DiBiase most hellish moment was on Superstars. The kid, he asked the kid to come up, and he told the kid if he told the kid and his mother if they could dribble the ball 10 times without stopping, without interrupting, right? So he would give the kid $200 or some amount of money, right? And funny, of course, they picked the black family, a black kid and the black moms. So the kid dribbles the ball and he gets to 9, and $1 million Man kicks the fucking ball, bro. Incredible. The most hellish moment I ever seen. Like, you know how today, you remember when Sasha Banks threw the thing at the fan at the little girl, or she ripped the thing up at the
Yeah.
little girl and threw it at her? That all comes from this Hill moment right here. $1 million Man set the bar for like Hills interacting with the audience, man. Incredible. But $1 million Man is just another, he's just another casualty of Hulk Hogan. Point blank and period. He should have had the title. He had the entrance. He had the moves. He had everything you can ask in a bad guy, bro. Everything. Finishing move down to the man stuffed $100 bills in in the loser's mouth at the end. At the end of every match, he stuff 100 in the loser mouth. Come on, man. It's no more over than that.
Yeah, I remember when he kicked that damn ball from that damn baby like a motherfucking race, like a motherfucking slave owner. Remember that shit? Like a motherfucking slave owner, bro. That nigga Ted DiBiase ain't shit, but yeah. Who can also forget? Well, I wasn't there, but I seen videos. He introduced us all to the greatest icon of the modern era, the Undertaker at Survivor Series. He's the one who introduced us all to the Undertaker.
Great point,
You
BT.
know,
How can we
so
forget that? Fact.
Yeah,
but
that's a good point. Good
Ted
point.
DiBiase could have been like Edge because just like Edge, he was a guy who was a heel because of his story and because of the fact that he was had such a great entrance, but he just made just so much of a better heel. Edge was a face for a long time, but Edge was he was a heel because he was just such a dastardly heel because he was such a 180 from what he used to be. And not to mention the fact that Teddy DiBiase represented what everybody hates. America hates a winner. And Teddy Biasi represented that. And the thing is, a guy like him, the reason why I said he could have been like Edge, he's always beefing with the top dog. He's always beefing with guys like Hogan and Dusty Rhodes and guys y'all mentioned before. But unfortunately, again, another casualty of Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan didn't want nobody else to have the spotlight, even when he wasn't around.
Facts. Like, I mean, look how many storylines, brilliant storylines, historic storylines they caught off of just $1 million Man character. He paid a twin referee. He paid the referees. Like, yo, he sold the title. Like, I mean, yo, what kind of, come on, $1 million Man, they should have threw him something, man. I mean, and you know it's sad when they know they've messed up so that they give him the $1 million title. Like, come on, bro. The $1 million title. Give him the title.
His
Yeah,
son's from down here. He from Jefferson over there in Baton Rouge. He was born down here in the Jefferson area is like a rich area in Baton Rouge and over in South Central. Yeah, a couple people around here know him actually.
yeah, good points on Ted DiBiase, $1 Million Man. I forgot the whole Undertaker thing. I know he had a son. I know he had the $1 million championship, gave other stars. But yeah, he's known for a lot. So I said so many moments with him. He should at least won the world title once. But he ran to the politic and Hulk Hogan, who stopped a lot of men from winning the world title, unfortunately. And it's just a shame. But he was definitely. That's why he's so top on this list. But the next guy I got on my list, he also should have been world champion, Mr. Perfect. The guy had the great heel persona. He had a great perfect plus, everything. Now he wrestled from 1980 to 2003. Finishers the perfect plex slash Henning plex slash Fisherman's plex, which he did in 80 to 03. Hall of Fame was 2007 individual. He is a two-time Intercontinental Champion, former United States Champion, and the heel moment is when he was feuding with Hogan, which I thought was so boss. His first guy I saw do this is when he destroyed the WWE Championship with a hammer. I think that's where Triple H stole that from, but he destroyed it. He said, "I'm gonna keep destroying every title, everything you have, Hogan, until you give me a title shot." I thought that was so heelish of him, so heelish. Now he ended up going to WCW later on. He was a manager at one point for Triple H when he won the Intercontinental Championship for the first time. Um, like I said, he came back to WWE later. He was in the famous altercation with Brock Lesnar. He went to TNA for a little bit, and then he passed away in '03. But definitely, he has a son. I think he's still employed with WWE. I don't. If he is, I don't know if he's on TV. Curtis
Yeah, Joe
Axel.
Henning. Joe Henning.
Yeah, Henry Curtis Axel. I don't know if he's still on TV. I never see him on TV. I don't know if he's employed, but that's his son. Um, and his father, of course, Larry. The axe. He was a wrestler too. So good wrestling family, famous wrestling family. But he had the body, the gimmick, the heel persona. He had all the tools to become a champion. But of course, it was politic by Mr. Hulk Hogan himself. But I know he had a lot of backstage issues with drugs, and that's what ultimately ended his life and other stuff going on. He wasn't always up to par, but he still should have been world champion. I'm gonna pass it along to you all.
No doubt. Now, Mr. Perfect was robbed by Hulk Hogan, and it was the 19 want to say 90 Royal Rumble. You know what I mean? The Royal Rumble come before Mania in 90, right?
Yes.
Yes,
All right,
Royal
yeah.
Rumble in
Yep,
January.
that's it. It was the final four. Perfect was not supposed to get eliminated. And I don't know if he accidentally eliminated himself or if Hogan purposely eliminated him, threw him too hard to the rope, and Perfect went up and over, kind of like Stone Cold. Remember when Stone Cold eliminated himself, but magically came back in? But yeah, Perfect went over. Check that Royal Rumble. It was said that Mr. Perfect was supposed to win that Royal Rumble, which I could believe, because there was no need for Hogan to win the Royal Rumble when Ultimate Warrior and him was already booked for that year WrestleMania. So that Perfect would have won that Royal Rumble and would have got the World Heavyweight title push. He would have probably been the next opponent for the Warrior. But one of Perfect's best matches to me is the 92 SummerSlam with him against Bret Hart. He put Bret Hart over, and that was pretty much the last time you seen Mr. Perfect as like the Perfect that you know him. Earlier on this list, when we got to Scott Hall, Razor Ramon, we talked about vignettes. Mr. Perfect had one of the best vignettes. His vignettes was better than the Razor Ramon vignettes, and Razor Ramon has some top-notch vignettes. Perfect used to throw the ball to himself. Everything he did was absolutely perfect. That's all I'm gonna say about him.
So for those of you who are too young to remember, because honestly, I didn't really catch Mr. Perfect in his actual prime. His last match was in 2002. I think it was against either Matt Hardy or Goldust, one of them two. But to give you a context of who Mr. Perfect was, think Kurt Angle, but just not as formally trained as Kurt Angle. Mr. Perfect was one of the greatest mat wrestlers who ever lived.
Facts.
Trained, of
Suplex
course,
City too. He was
yeah,
Suplex City too.
trained by Stu Hart. You know, another guy trained by Stu Hart. By the way, Stu Hart is the Hart family is the greatest sports is one of the five greatest sports families who ever lived. If y'all don't know that, just go look it up. They're up there with the Mannings. They're up there with the Currys. They're up there with any family because them alone created. If it weren't for the Harts, there would be no WWE, WWF, whatever you want to call it. But let's just all face the facts. Kurt Hennig had problems, but we all know the real reason why he got kicked out of WWE. He got and around in 2001 or two, he got into an altercation with what was at the time the biggest wrestler in the world. That's Brock Lesnar. I'm gonna put it to y'all like this: Brock Lesnar was Vince McMahon's cash cow. In 2002, Brock Lesnar was the new Hulk Hogan. He was just the face of the company, and Kurt Hennig, because of his alcoholism and also the fact that Kurt's battled a lot of demons, Kurt kind of looked down on the new youngster, right? Because the thing is, Kurt, not only being such an imposing figure, Kurt was such a hard worker. And the fact that this young guy came in and was already WWE champion, had already been a World Rumble winner, the fact that this young guy came in and accomplished all that was really giving a lot of that stuff. Because don't get me wrong, as great as Brock was, Vince gave him a lot of stuff. But the minute you cross Vince's stars, whether that be Hulk Hogan or Brock Lesnar, at one point it was Batista, is the minute you become Vince McMahon's enemy. But I think the reason why Kurt Hennig wasn't given the belt, Mr. Goodbread and KDH, let's just face the facts. He wasn't stable enough. There were times where Kurt couldn't be depended upon because he would miss time because of his drug and alcohol abuse, which is sad. Kurt was not only a wonderful competitor, he was also a father, and but the minute him and Brock Lesnar got into that fight, that was the end of his career. You don't touch Vince's toys. Brock Lesnar was Vince's biggest bargaining chip as far as keeping the company relevant during that time. Can y'all hear me?
BT, that's a fact, bro. When he put him to shame on that plane ride from hell, boy,
Hmm.
and that was the Minnesota Wrecking Crew right there, the Minnesota boys.
And not just that, he kicked Brock Lesnar's ass. That hurt Brock Lesnar's ego. You have to understand, Mr. Goodbread. Brock Lesnar is an actual bully. He's a guy who's used to beating up on people. Being around that many guys who may not be as big as him, but just that strong, just as nasty, a big old dude like Brock Lesnar, who's probably not the brightest guy in the world, a guy like him ain't used to nobody kicking his ass. And the thing is, him doing that to Brock Lesnar bruised his ego. You basically bruised Vince's ego because Vince wants Brock Lesnar to have this aura of like omnipotence almost. Like you can't beat his ass. Like kind of like with Hulk Hogan. You can't beat Hulk Hogan's ass, even though we all know Hulk Hogan isn't the most agile or the most swift of feet like that. He was no real fighter. And Brock Lesnar had an amateur background, but you know what I'm saying? Kurt Hennig wasn't scared of Brock, but as I mentioned before, him fighting Vince's biggest cash cow certainly didn't help his chances.
I'm the guy that took down Brock Lesnar at 35,000 feet.
Mm-hmm.
He said that is TNA. But yeah, great points though. Yeah, Mr. Perfect. Like I said before, he had a lot of backstage issue with alcohol, drugs, all of it, and it led to his demise. Just not only in the ring, but outside the ring. I think he was 44. He passed away.
Very
Um,
young, very young.
very young. He's one of those wrestlers that era. If you notice that era, the pattern we're doing, all those guys, those 89 wrestlers, the ones that's not here with us today, with the exception of Owen Hart, they passed away of drugs, alcohol, substance abuse, all of it. They passed away because of that. Because them guys were huge, and they had to use some drugs to stay big. So that
Yeah,
was a
there's a
big
part.
era.
There's a price to pay for that aesthetic, man. The
Yeah,
human body is not really meant to look like that. You can, of
no,
course, get big like that, but the human body is not really meant to have that kind of aesthetic because that's what cow. That's why cows give cows steroids because you want them to be bigger because that gives you more meat. Human beings aren't supposed to be big like that. It's not good for our internal organs. It's not good. It's just not good for our longevity. We're just not meant to be that big, especially because if you look at Kurt Hennig, he was kind of really a tall, lanky guy. He really
yeah,
wasn't meant to be an overbearingly big guy, but can't really tell people stuff.
yeah. It was him, Rick Rude, of course, Eddie Guerrero, um, plenty of guys. Les Luger, he's in a wheelchair now. It's just all those guys in that era, they were either conform to a wheelchair or they no longer here with us because of the abuse they was using, and it's sad. And then that was just the men; it was the women too. Look at say sensational Sherry. Look at Miss Elizabeth. Look at Luna Bacon, if I say her name right. Nicole Bass. Of course, China. It's like all the men and women of the 80s, 90s that were wrestling that time frame. It was always something about drugs that led to their demise. So it's just unfortunate that they're not here with us anymore. But those were great takes on Mr. Perfect, BT. Very, very good take on that, man. And we're gonna go on to number two. Number two of the Belts that win the world title. Let's get to him right now. And it is Mr. What's this guy at? Uh, Jake the Snake Roberts. Now he wrestled from 1975 to 2018. His finishing move was the famous perfect, the one that made this move famous. The DDT he did from 75 to 18. Hall of Famer, inducted in 2014. And his heel moment was when he had Macho Man Randy Savage tied to the ring, and he had the Cobra Snake bit him, and I think it was in 1992. And I remember hearing about that. That was very, very big back in the day. He did have him bit. So that is it on Mr. Jake the Snake. Never won a world title. Never won a world title. Now he is like a Mr. Perfect and others. He just could not be trusted. He had a lot of substance abuse issues, a lot of drug issues, but one of the most famous characters, one of the most over gimmicks. I think he had a feud with Undertaker too, very memorable feud, but he wrestled him at WrestleMania, but never won a world title, never got over. He was over as champion. Vince McMahon did not trust him, so unfortunately he never won it. He said he wished he had won it. He didn't even win a mid card championship. That's crazy. A guy of his success didn't even win the Intercontinental Championship. Never won anything. No King of Ring, no Royal Rumble, no nothing. He was just this guy inducted to Hall of Fame. I thought Jake at some point deserved a little bit better before his backstage antics got bad, but I know he wasn't trusted. That was stated by Ultimate Warrior. Ultimate Warrior had his issues with WWE. So he is number two on the list, and I will leave it on to you guys.
Jake the Snake was the second victim of Undertaker's WrestleMania undefeated streak. Definitely, definitely one of the most talented big men ever. Jake the Snake was 6'7", 280 pounds. Very much so a freak athlete for his time. Very talented guy. Jake was very loyal to WWE. He was a guy who didn't really need much. he wanted to be a wrestler since he was a young boy. Jake was serviceable. Jake is a lot like guys like like, he's basically like Jack Swagger or guys like that. He's a mid carder who does his job very very well. He doesn't really need belt, even though Jack Swagger won a title. You know what I'm saying? But guys like Jake the Snake don't really need titles. You know what I'm saying? Guys like him are able to put guys over. They're athletically talented to the point where they can give you good matches. Should he have been world champion? I think so. Maybe a good match against Ultimate Warrior or Hulk Hogan. But yeah, I think he could have been a good world champion.
Man, Jake the Snake, this is criminal. And this could have been number one to me. Jake the Snake could have been number one. Again, just like the $1 Million Man, he had everything. He had every single thing. He had the music. Dun, 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 dun. He had the music. He had every single thing. You know what I mean? He had the DDT. They ended up banning his DDT. They ended up banning it, guys. You know what I mean? And then he had the snake. He had the finisher at the end of the match, much like how $1 Million Man has stuffed the money in their mouth. He'll put the snake, he'll roll the snake on him. So I don't see why they didn't put it on him. But then again, I know why. And it always come down to if you're not a homegrown product, which he was not. And a lot of the guys on this list are not homegrown, you know what I mean, WWE athletes. I mean, $1 Million Man wasn't a homegrown. In fact, $1 Million Man and Jake the Snake used to have wars in Stone Mountain wrestling. You
I
know what I mean?
heard
Because they
about
come from
that.
the Stone Mountain territory.
Yeah.
Vince McMahon pretty much stole a bunch of territorial talent and then created the WrestleMania logo with it. Yo,
Yeah, great spill on Mr. Jake the Snake. Jake had it all. You could say better good bread. He had the snake, the gimmick, everything. And this guy should at least won a world title. But like you said, he was not WWE born bred. He was not trusted either backstage because of what he was at. Now he's with AEW currently. He's the manager of a wrestler called Vance Archer. He doesn't be on TV that much. He's kind of like a R. Anderson, a manager spot on AEW. And also, he was really having health issues several years ago. He hooked up with Diamond Dallas Page to run DDP Yoga, and I heard it's changed his life around and even saved his life. On side note, DDP also worked with Scott Hall before he passed away. That's how he was able to live a little bit longer. DDP was known for helping guys out and getting it, turning life around, giving them better health, better shape. So DDP also, shout out to him. Even though he was a world champion.
Just
About
a
Jake.
side note. Just a side note. Vince McMahon is a legendary swagger jacker. Vince McMahon is notorious for taking guys from other brands and taking brand logos, combining them. Vince McMahon is a legendary swagger jacker. Like nobody ever talks about the fact
facts.
that Vince McMahon is always taking other people's ideas because niggas is too dumb to put copyrights on shit. Vince McMahon, you can say whatever you want about him. He's just smarter than everybody else. Maybe not. He's not as book smart as other people, but Vince McMahon has more street smarts than other people do, and that's why he's able to mess people over. Ted Turner is a way better businessman than Vince McMahon, but he's not a street smart. He's not as street smart as Vince is.
Exactly. Great point, yo. We talked about that earlier, me and KD.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, Ted Turner. Yeah, Vince McMahon he's a smarter businessman as a whole. He know how to get what he wants. He's a McMahon. Don't
He
surprise me.
he know how to make his money work for him. Unlike the
Yeah,
other ones who just got the money and they just throw it at a dummy like Bischoff and expect him to make magic when he got no wrestling history, heritage, and nothing. Like it's crazy.
yeah. I do not care for that dude at all. Eric Bischoff,
Eric
um,
Bischoff is a hell of a son.
he
Facts.
helped. Yeah, he is. No doubt about it. But yeah, we're gonna go to number one. on the list. Give me 1 second. You guys kind of saw earlier by accident, but I'm gonna show it anyway. Number one heel of all time is the man himself, Mr. Rowdy Piper. He is number one heel that should have been a world champion. Number one, definitely should have won. Go over his career. He is a wrestler he wrestled many years. He wrestled since 2011, 69, I believe, to 11. Sleeper holds his finisher 73 to 11. Hall of Famer 2005. Former Intercontinental Champion. And of course, his heel moment, which is still one of the top heel moments to this day. Smash a coconut over Jimmy Superfly Snuka's head on Piper's Pit in 1984. Uh, Hogan is a huge reason, very huge reason this man not win the title, and because he just wouldn't do whatever. I believe I heard that he didn't do what WWE specifically want. He didn't, play the game, with Vince. That's why he never won the title. And Hogan did not want to lose to him. It's just this is a highway robbery, literally highway robbery. This man not win. I mean, CM Punk quoted himself that Roddy Piper was his inspiration as a heel and inspired him to get into the wrestling business. And other wrestlers mentioned this about Roddy Piper. So I just don't get that at all. This guy had everything. The persona, Piper's Pit, promos second to none, up there with Ric Flair. Um, I mean, he was in WCW for a while, came back to WWE for a little bit, passed away in 15 of leukemia, I believe. I think he had leukemia or Hodgkin's disease. But yeah, definitely a man that should have won. Number
He
one
had a
on my
heart
list.
attack.
Yeah, heart attack. Okay.
Hmm.
I know before he passed, he got to Stone Cold Steve Austin over a little, I think it was over interview show or something. And Stone Cold got him fired from a little podcasting thing he was doing. And people was mad at Stone Cold for a while after he passed, but definitely number one on this list, man. There's not more to be said about this dude. He had everything to be a champion. And I would leave it on to you guys for this one. For number one.
No, Piper is unique. Piper should have definitely won. But I want y'all guys to go back on Piper's career and you tell me who besides Bret Hart ever pinned this man's shoulders to the mat. And that's only because he respected Bret Hart because of the Canadian connection. But again, guys, nobody pinned this man shoulder to the mat, and especially Hogan, since he knew Vince was gonna ride Hogan's. You know what? He said he made a deal, and he never ever let Hogan pin him, bro. You know what I mean? Hogan, if you notice, in WrestleMania 1, who got pinned? It was not Roddy Piper.
Yeah, I'll take it over for good bread till he gets straight. Roddy Piper, aka what was his name, Eric Toombs or whatever, is one of the greatest wrestlers who ever lived. God rest his soul. Easily one of the greatest technical wrestlers ever. Robert Toombs. Fun fact: he's not from Ireland. He's actually from Saskatchewan, Canada. One of the most technically sound wrestlers who ever lived. Also, for a long time, he was undefeated. Roddy Piper was never, even though he's a heel, there was nothing fake. There was nothing fake about him. Like that. What you saw on TV is who he actually is. He is known for being a short-tempered, in your face, very gritty type of guy. He had legendary rivalries with every top star in the history of the WWE, from Bret Hart, Hulk Hogan, even Triple H, even The Undertaker. He's beef with everybody. He's right up there with Bret Hart as far as being a technically sound wrestler. He's one of the few guys who you could say is more of a technical rap mat guy. It can still entertain a crowd. Go back and watch some of his matches, but maybe not the greatest athlete, not a bad athlete at all, but he's not like a not like an Undertaker or like a like he's not a dynamic athlete like that or like Jeff Hardy and off the top rope type of guy. Even Bret Hart was a pretty dynamic athlete, but Roddy Piper is the greatest heel of all time. Him honestly, he was Chris Jericho before there was a Chris Jericho. And the thing is, even Ric Flair, who he had beef with up until the day he passed, God rest his soul, even Ric Flair said that Roddy Piper is the most gifted entertainer who ever lived in the history of wrestling. He was basically like, see how Chris Jericho is with the highlight reel, and how Edge was with his show and stuff like that. All Roddy Piper. That was all him. He's the greatest heel who ever lived. He should have been a 10-time WWE champion because him being a heel would have made people watch TV even more. But again, he beefed with the wrong people. Very independent guy. His who he was on TV is who he is in real life as well.
Yes, very true. Right, probably did set the template for a lot of guys. Jericho, Edge, CM Punk, all those guys. He definitely kicked off the whole heel persona. Him smashing that head over Jimmy. That was before Jericho, put Shawn Michaels over the 5,000 Titantron or Jerotron. He was one of the three legends that faced Jericho at WrestleMania 25. It was Jericho versus Snuka, Piper, and Ricky Steamboat. That's the last WrestleMania I remember him being in. It was supposed to be Mickey Rourke, but you know, for Hollywood reasons, they didn't want him in the match. Um, but yeah, Jimmy Snuka, I'm sorry, Roddy Piper, he um he just took over, man. As the heel, it's just like I said, highway robbery. Oh, Goodrich, you want to say something?
Oh no, I'm listening. I'm here. Y'all
I
on
want
point,
to
man. Y'all on
I
point.
want to hear
Everybody
your
on point.
no, I want to hear your take on Roddy Piper.
Roddy Piper is he's the man, man. Like I said, Roddy Piper was the man. Roddy Piper had a dog collar match before he like again. Maybe it's just something with the people that's not homegrown WWE stars. Because Roddy Piper, he came from I think it was AWA, and he one of the most historical matches I can remember where he actually, if y'all didn't know, Piper fought his whole stint in WWE with a busted eardrum, much like Cactus Jack, because he was in a dog collar match in Starcade 2 or 1 or 2, might be 1. He was in a dog collar match with Greg the Hammer Valentine, who also was stolen by Vince McMahon. You know what I mean? And they had a vicious match. I mean, blood, and Piper got his ear busted in that match, but he won that. And then like a couple weeks later, Vince McMahon stole him, and like 3 weeks later, he was in WrestleMania. So Piper definitely like Vince spent a lot of money too. Piper was one of those wrestlers too, guys. Keep in mind that he might not have had the title, but he had got top dollar. He was getting top dollar, and this is the reason why a lot of the other guys on his list, like Jake the Snake, he really was so far from the title, because if they didn't give it to Piper, who was the heel at the time, you know what I mean, which forced Jake to be the undercard heel. And I mean, it was like, and this is all due to Hogan and Vince, though. You know what I mean? You gotta blame it on Vince too, because Vince, you saw the green and you just wanted to go to the well so many times when you could have broke it up and you might have got even more money, yo. You know what I mean? You might have got even more money, but who knows? But who's the question, Vince, man? Who's the questioner?
Yeah, yeah, that's perfectly well said. Rowdy had no chance, no chance. Then with Vince McMahon, Hogan, and y'all going by their rules and doing what they want, no way. He could have been world champion. Now I'm gonna do some honorable mentions too. Honorable mention, I'll mention I will mention Big Boss Man. If you guys remember Big Boss Man, he wrestled in the early '90s and later Attitude Era. He had the Shield gimmick, the Shield always the black SWAT. Before the Shield, he wore that attire first. He was a great. He could have been a world champion. He was a villain for most of his career. He was known for, I think his heel moment was the jailhouse match at SummerSlam '94 or '93, one or two. He was one. Um, Big Boss was definitely one. I'm trying to think of us another one, but there were so many great heels that we mentioned already that we touched on. He's another one I want to add to the pot, but I guess it just shows that Hulk Hogan, what for his years to being champion, wasn't just because he was a dominant champion, because he held a lot of people back. We hit a one common denominator, and it's Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan let this guy win, he let this guy win, or this guy, or this guy, or this guy. It's Hogan, man. Like you said, Hogan and Vince, they just held a lot of people back. And that's what forced people to leave the WWE. It forced them to sue in some cases. It forced them to go on a rant. Even Ultimate Warrior, who was a champion, had issues with Vince too. They all had issues, but mostly it was about not just titles, but money and where a spot was on the card. But it's just the rest of this can be very, very brutal, very lethal, depending on who you're dealing with. But it's just in some cases, despite all of this, all these guys can't be world champion. Some of the guys who mentioned I can never be world champion. They just didn't have it, whether it was Vince, whether it was Terry Turner, or whoever it was. He just didn't have it. Oh, another mention I'll mention too is Bam Bam Bigelow. He never won never been a world champion. He was ECW. Bam
Absolutely,
Bam
bro.
Bigelow,
Good
big
one.
man.
Very good. Good one. Good one. That's a good point.
Yeah, Bam
That's a
Bam
good
Bigelow's
point.
definitely one. I wish I wish he would have won. Yeah, I know the ECW, he won that title, but you saw my criteria. Had to be a WWE, NWA, WCW. They don't respect ECW title, unfortunately, but he should have won his first big man to do the moonsault, first big man to do cartwheels, all of that. He should have won the title, definitely. And we're gonna go another big gentleman after him, Vader. Well, Vader don't count. He did win WCW title, but I think he still should at least win WWE title. He was a former WCW champion, but I just don't get how he could have been WWE champion too. Vader was just as dominant as Bam Bam Bigelow, but I know he was dominant in WCW, but they would never let him win the world title, the WWE championship, and that just bothers me even now talking about it. But those are some honorable mentions. If you guys want to mention anything about the honorable mentions, you guys want to chime in on that?
Yeah,
Um.
I'm more so with the Attitude Era, but I think by then all the right pieces was in the puzzle. The people that got a chance, they flip flopped the title. So to really catch a real crime, you got to go back in the days. And I just want to mention like Big John Studd and King Kong Bundy. Those was all hills that was like, damn. So they used to scare me. They used to scare me, but for them to not win the title was like, dang, okay. I guess those would be honorable mentions.
I think Umaga would have made a. Can you hear me now? I think
Yes.
Umaga would have made a great world champion, especially like a world heavyweight champion, WWE champion. I think would be kind of a stretch because I think that there's just so much history behind that title. No, I think he would have made an incredible WWE champion. Bruno Sammartino, The Rock, other guys who have been Polynesian world champions. Umaga was legit terrifying. When Umaga first came out, especially because he was Sunny before, he was in a group before, but when they repackaged him as Umaga, I'm not gonna lie to you. In my opinion, he's one of the most intimidating wrestlers in history. He would have made a very legit world champion, especially in the right story. Maybe a story against Batista or maybe a rematch against John Cena. Because remember, he had that historically great match against John Cena at the Royal Rumble in '07. I think that's one of the greatest matches of all time. Umaga actually looked dominant in that match. Like I would have minded seeing a third match between them two, like Hell in a Cell or something like that. You know, I think the guys like that would have been great world champions. There are guys who I think didn't get enough world title holds, in my opinion. I think there's guys who could have been world champion more often, but that's just me.
Yeah, you're talking about when he was Jamal Rosie
Yeah, 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 yeah,
3 minute
yeah, yeah, yeah.
on Raw. That was Umago's character. You know, yeah, Umaga, I forgot about him. He was Intercontinental Champion, but no, they weren't gonna put the world title on him. It's crazy is because Solo Sokoa today does the Samoan Spike in honor to Umaga. But yeah, a lot of guys could have been world champion, but yeah, it's just unfortunate though. Um, I may do a list of top 10 greatest baby faces ever win world title. That's what I'm looking at. So I know there's some baby faces that never won a championship, that could have won a championship. But we know politicking comes into play, time and place, who your promoter is, who your boss is, all that plays factor. But that's the same with these here. Um, it was a great list we went over tonight. Great list. Went by kind of fast, but yeah, it was a great list. I think we cover a lot of champions, a lot of great points you guys have. Some stuff I forgot or I didn't even know, but great stuff though. Like I said, I'm gonna probably do another list next week. I know I do plan on releasing an event that me and Good Bread did, which was an event we did. So I'm gonna put that out. So a great pay per view we did a reaction to. But you guys got anything else you want to say in regards to the whole tonight of the over list? Did
Great
you guys?
show.
You said what? Yeah, thanks, appreciate it. You guys agree with that list though? The way it count down, you thought list could be any different of the villains that have won world title? You guys there?
I'll catch y'all later, man. This is an incredible show. Always good to talk
Okay.
to people about. At the end of the day, even though there's a lot of effort going on, there's nothing better than sports entertainment, man. Sports entertainment is something we can all talk about because we all grew up on it. Whether you're watching uh, regular sports like the NBA or the NFL, or you're watching good old fashioned wrestling. But wrestling is something that can bring us all together because the characters are larger than life and they all brought us together, man. But always good talking to y'all, man. I'm gonna catch y'all on the next one. God bless y'all. Be safe.
All right. Thanks for coming out, BT. All right. Good bread. Good bread. You still there? Good bread. You still there? You muted. Okay. This is I plan on doing Night Champions next week. Next Saturday's Night Champions. We'll go ahead and do that one. I think it's gonna be early afternoon. So I appreciate you guys coming out tonight. You guys let me know what you think of tonight's show. Comment section, I thank you all for coming out. Like I said, I'm trying to make this a weekly thing of doing a top 10 list of villains, babyface champions, not champions, and also still do a lot of events, pay-per-views or PLEs. So I thank you all for coming out then. But until then, it is OUT.